Welcome in another edition of the Trey Wallace Podcast, powered by OutKick. Happy to be joined by Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs offensive lineman, former Tennessee Volunteer, Trey Smith joins us this afternoon. Trey, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Good, man. It seems like you have had you've had an interesting last week of your life. And before we get back to the beginning stages of it, Trey, man, what's it been like as a Super Bowl champ? You know, you're on the field and you're fighting for every down. You get to that point of the Super Bowl and it's finally over. Like, what was the feeling like on the field as you sat there and looked around that stadium?
Pure happiness, joy, but almost disbelief in a way. It's like, man, we really just did that. You know what I mean? I remember whenever the clock hit zero, sprinting onto the field and just like almost like everything stood still, just looking around. And then it really registered when like the confetti started flying down. You know, I got to see my family up on the field, and it's like, man, we really did it. We're Super Bowl, we're world champions.
Isn't it? It's crazy how life comes full circle. And so when you were at the University of Tennessee, you'll be able to explain this a lot better than others. When you were at the University of Tennessee and decided to come back, for another year, you had the opportunity to actually work a Super Bowl and be behind the scenes in that, in that manner. But looking back on that time now, what were some of the things that you did while you were working, the Super Bowl in Miami? With the University of Tennessee.
Yeah. Through the Tennessee's like program called the Big Orange Combine, about 8 of us were able to go down to Miami and work the Super Bowl, but also network ourselves with different companies and brands. And I remember, the Super Bowl is the ultimate game. So whenever they're like, you get to go to the Super Bowl, that's like, okay, I'm in. Whatever I got to do, let me go in there. So just being able to work the Super Bowl was super cool. Just to see the nuances that go into it. Like my job most of the time was just ushering people into the right direction or just helping hands, moving stuff as well. But it was really cool just to see how much work, how much security, the intricate details that go into a Super Bowl, the prep, the planning, et cetera. It was really cool to see it from that side. Like you said, it comes full circle because obviously the Chiefs were playing the 49ers. So able to watch, bits and pieces walking out, of that game. And then post game, we were able to actually go in, like, quote unquote, clean the stadium. So I was watching the Chiefs celebrate, as a civilian, as a fan. Fast forward a couple of years, here I am in the same position, just doing the exact same thing. And, after working that event, something just told me, you're going to be on that stage at some point in your career. Now, what I think was going to be this early, no. What I think it was going to be with the Chiefs, no. But, the fact that I was able to witness it like that and be a part of that, it's pretty surreal, man. It's meant to be.
There's not a lot of people that understand the trials and tribulations that you went through even before you got to Tennessee. With the unfortunate passing of your mother, what led you to Knoxville, the things that happened while you were in Knoxville. I got to cover you during that time. And, it amazes me now that some of the community out there in the world that they don't know, everything, they know that you played at Tennessee and they know some of the minor details of kind of, your the circumstances that happened. But, when we look back at that time and we talk about, when you first were diagnosed, with blood clots. And I remember that week. It was, absolutely crazy for you, and I'm wondering, what did you take away from that? And I'm not talking about like the previous years that you played at Tennessee, but like in that moment over those, let's just say 6 months that followed that situation. Talk about that time in your life when football was potentially not on the table anymore.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely a gut check. I relied on my faith to carry me through that. it was definitely a very hard time. But I say it's a gut check because I had to figure out what type of person I am, what type of man I am in that moment where it's like, okay, I had an option where I could just go be a regular student, get my education, get my degree, and that's perfectly fine. It's okay. But then in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, I want to play football. I want to go to the NFL. It's something I promised my mom. It's something I wanted to accomplish. And I knew I was talented enough to do it. So for me, it was like, every day I wake up, it's not easy. Back then, our swimming program was hard, man. You had Craig Fitzgerald, Pruden staff, like they were killing us every day. And, it's hard, man. You go in there every day, you're dying in workouts, and you're sitting there thinking, man, I don't even know if I'm going to play. So you're really just, busting your butt every day without even knowing. So for me, man, I just relied on my faith. But it was definitely a hard time, But in my mind, was just like, you know what? I don't know what the doctor's going to say, but if I get that opportunity, I'm going to be ready. Whatever it takes, I'm going to be ready when it's time comes.
Well, for a lot of people that don't know, what was that? What was that like having to go through? And I don't want to get into your personal health because that's your own thing. But I'm in regards to the decision that came to be able to play. Okay, you can play, Trey. We're going to allow you. We're going to get you on a regimen to make sure this works out. Like a lot of folks don't know what you were going through, like during practice weeks before games, just to be able to play. Like, walk me through that without getting too much into your medicine detail and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What was that like, having to like sit off to the side some days, being involved sometimes, but then getting ready to play on Saturday?
Yeah, it was extremely tough. I know in 2018, for instance, when I played left tackle, I hadn't had any experience at position really. I had 1 week of practice. That's really all I had of physical contact before the season started. So that's hard. 2019, I didn't practice. I practiced maybe one time, maybe late in the training camp, and that was it. During the week, God bless Mike Farrell, our strength coach at the time. That's what I would do. I'd be with Mike and would be hitting the pad, working different drills of that nature, and then I'll just go out there and play. So as an offensive lineman, it's really hard to obviously you're touching someone every play, you're moving someone off the point of attack, you're pass blocking. It's hard to build up any level of consistency and comfort when you aren't getting a live look and a live rep against the person. So
Right.
it was very tough, man. A lot of times, you're sitting out there, you done all the hard work, workouts, it's hot outside. And, eventually you do want to play football. You want to go hit somebody. And then, you're just sitting on the sideline. It's like, okay, not today. We're going to try it in a couple of weeks. It's like, what? So it could be frustrating, but, the Tennessee, they had such a great medical plan. And, Dr. Chris Klink was phenomenal. Geronimo Boche, Alex Medina, all those guys, they did a phenomenal job monitoring and making sure my regiment was great. But it was hard, man. It was frustrating a lot of times. You want to get out there. I wanted to play football,
Yeah, and well, then you also had that. There was the scare. During the second part of the season. It was 2019, 18.
Yeah.
And you had the scare, and you have to kind of sit down, and it's like you have to thank God it turned out to be something good in a situation where you're doing so much bad. But then you had to take a step back from football again, and then have to reorganize yourself to get ready to play for another season once they figured out. Like, this was, for a lot of people that don't realize, like, this was not just like a one-off circumstance. Like, you were dealing with this for multiple years while you were at Tennessee.
Yep, 100%. And that was sort of the hard part. When the second one came, it was sort of like, curtains closed. That was it. You get a second reoccurring, especially in that shorter time period. You have a real issue, a real problem. And luckily, at that point, I was very close to giving up. But talking to my dad and, once again, doctors at Tennessee, Chris Klink, Alex Medina, Geronimo, you know what, just go to another specialist. Let's make sure it's legit. Let's make sure there's nothing else. All options are depleted. So going to another specialist, they do their scans and they just weren't convinced. And, based through everything they saw, they're like, no, you don't have blood clots. You're just seeing the scarring from where you had it the first time. And come to find out, I'm allergic to like literally everything when it comes
No
out.
way. Come
Yes.
on.
Cats, my girlfriend's roommate at the time had a cat, was destroying me. He like couldn't breathe every day. The trees outside, pollen, pretty much you name it, I'm allergic to it from a respiratory standpoint. So that was jacking me up, and that's why I was feeling the way I felt. So it almost was a perfect storm where I got misdiagnosed, and they saw the scar tissue and stuff, and I thought it was something that it really wasn't.
It was kind of, I remember sitting in that press conference where you decided, look, I'm going to come back to Tennessee. I'm going to finish off my career. I'm going to get my diploma. You made a very point of emphasis that, you made a promise to your mother to finish things off at Tennessee. Well, before we get into the NFL, what was that last season like for you? There's coaching stuff going on. There's behind the scenes things. You're trying to do your job, make it to the NFL, continue playing for Tennessee, finish off, get your diploma. That final season at Tennessee, how do you kind of wrap that around your brain when you look back on it?
Yeah, it was a rough year, man. You have COVID that hit randomly. You're locked down. A lot of limitations in terms of just being able to do the basic stuff, man. And it definitely impacted us. It was a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. And, I think it affected us a little bit. Obviously, the season wasn't what we wanted. I feel like I played where I wanted as well.
Yeah.
You didn't want to – I didn't want to leave on a low note like that. I wanted to leaving Tennessee better than how I found it, so to say. So that was definitely tough to deal with. But ultimately, it happens. It's just more adversity at the end of the day, So that was just something that was rough to get through. I think the highlights of that year was being able to play with Cade and Cooper. You know what I mean? Having those guys.
Yep.
They made it a lot of fun to deal with. A lot of my guys have always been there. But it was a rough year. Yet once again, another reality check, another gut check.
But it kind of set you up, Trey, for what you were going to go through. And if you don't know, he was talking about Cade Mays and Cooper Mays, former Tennessee offensive lineman, good friends of his. Trey Smith is a duck hunter, if you didn't know that. But it sets you up for, you have a lot of interviews with NFL teams. There's a lot of questions still out there. I remember leading up to the draft, and when it came to either the Senior Bowl or the Combine or you name it, there was a lot of questions. Okay, well, what's going on with Trey Smith? And I remember that night of the draft, and I know you remember it. And the following days, there had to be a lesson that came out of that for you, besides a chip on your shoulder. There had to be some kind of lesson when all of a sudden, things don't play out in the first few rounds of the draft, going on. And then all of a sudden the Chiefs ended up drafting you. Can you tell me what you were thinking during that time and how things kind of played out in God's hands, once it was all said and done?
Yeah. Guess an easy way to put it is I had a lot of interviews and stuff leading up to the draft, and the Chiefs were one of the last interviews I had, maybe literally 2 days before the start of the first day before the start of the draft. And so I remember, talking to my agent, I didn't think I was going to be a first round. I had the possibility late first round.
Yeah.
Obviously I definitely expected day two. I was like, if all else fails, worst case scenario, third round. So I'm sitting there day one. My family's all at my house, and I'm just playing the game. I don't want to be bothered. Well, my phone calls, that's bonus. Day one, that's bonus, man.
Right.
So
yeah.
we were playing Rocket League, Call of Duty, with my friends from high school, having a good time. Day one rolls around, nothing. Okay, cool. Go to sleep. All right, today's gonna be the day. I'm not worried about it. Once again, I'm starting on Rocket League. I'm just playing the game because I didn't want to watch the draft. I didn't want to do that. So I'm on the game, looking at the clock, like, dang, man. Like, so, okay, day two passes by. At this point, I'm almost in disbelief and panic. It's like, okay, am I going to get drafted? Like, what's going on? What did I do wrong in the process?
Right.
What did I do wrong? So day three rolls around, not feeling the greatest. I'm still on Rocket League. and at this point, my dad had actually went out to get chicken tenders for lunch. So the only people in my house is me and my sister. So I get a call, ring, ring, it's Urban Meyer. He's from the Jaguars. He's like, okay, we're going to take you as an undrafted free agent guy. We're going to fly you and your dad in tomorrow. He's like, I remember you from Ohio State. You're a great guy, et cetera, et cetera. And that was really cool because, I had a really good relationship with him when he was at Ohio State. So I was thinking in my mind, okay, boom, free agent. I'm going to Jacksonville. The story's done. It is what it is. What can you do? Can't cry, can't complain. So I hop back on the game, tell my friends, like, hey, man, I'm going to be a Jag, like, blah, blah. We're all celebrating on the mic. And so it was funny, like maybe 5 minutes after I got that phone call, like the only phone call I've gotten, I get a call and it has Kansas City as like the little tag. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, what do they want? So I answer the phone. It ends up being one of the doctors that talked to me previously in the same week of the draft. And he's like, hey, I told you I'd call again. And at this point, I'm a little ticked off. So I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, okay.
What's up? Yeah. Like,
what do you want? So he's like, well, we're going to make you the newest member of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm literally on the sticks, right? I'm playing the game like just like this. And I'm like, okay. It didn't register until he said, I'm going to hand the phone to our owner, Mr. Hunt. And then Mr. Hunt started speaking. And then I'm like, oh, this is real. Turned it off like, answer the phone like, oh, this is happening. Like, I actually got drafted, So after that point, everything was, it didn't matter where you got drafted. At that point, just getting my foot in the door, receiving the opportunity, I'm like, okay, it's time to make something of this. I was just thankful to get the phone call because at the end of the day, I was perfectly fine with being an undrafted free agent going to Jacksonville. But
right.
Atlanta City, and I've seen them win a Super Bowl. I know who they have at quarterback. I know the level this organization is at. It couldn't have ended up better.
You had played down in Jacksonville too in a bowl game. So it was like, you know what I mean? I remember covering that football game. So you're like, okay, but it is crazy that you would get a call when the draft is still going on saying, hey, look, we're going to have you down here. We're going to get you as an undrafted free agent. All of a sudden, you think it's done. And all of a sudden there's Kansas City calling you. It's crazy how life comes at you out of nowhere. And I think that's one example of it. So you get drafted by the Chiefs, you get into their organization, and knowing it's, you're going to attack every day is, it's the last day. So, for that moment and then trying to prepare yourself for the NFL, what's that like? What's that? A lot of people don't realize, okay, you got to go to rookie OTAs. You've got to set yourself up now for the future. And I mean, Trey, you went from a 6th-round draft pick to starting in the NFL. Like, walk me through that process because that's a lot for some people to understand.
Yeah, that process is hard, man. You first get there, it's always the unknown, man. That's how I put it with sports, is like the unknown. Every time you progress on a level, there's an unknown factor. And for me, this is the highest level. These are the best players in the world, and you walk in the locker room, you don't know anybody. Luckily, I was able to go with Creed Humphrey. I've known Creed since high school, had a great relationship with him. We actually did our pre-draft prep together. So every morning we woke up, worked out with each other. So that made it a lot easier. You have someone you're comfortable with, someone you have a good relationship with, so you can walk that path together.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just like, man, just trying to do whatever my coach says. And like I said, busting my butt, being extra about it, be extra physical, extra nasty, violent. But really just trying to do my best, at the end of the day, I told myself, just do your best and whatever happens, happens. Because that's all you can do. That's all you can control is your effort and how accurate you are and what you're doing. So for me, man, it was like you're walking that line every day. Like, okay, OTAs, we first get there. Yeah, workouts, conditioning. I'm killing that because I'm already in great shape.
Right.
Then it's time for the football portion. Oh, crap, here we go. Like, it's real. This is like NFL ball. Once again, you're not in pads and stuff. You're really in shorts, tees, but you're doing football type drills. So for me, it's like, how many times can I dominate the rep? How many times can I dominate my block? So going into it, obviously I was low. Kyle Long, who is a tremendous veteran, a guy who completely helped carry me through my rookie season. He unfortunately gets an injury, which makes me have to play immediately at the starter group. So when that happens, like, dude, this is crazy. Like, in my mind, I'm almost freaking out a little bit because then you're going against like top tier talent, guys like Jarren Reed, Chris Jones. These guys are across the ball, and it's like these are your first true, reps, Rook. Like, you're ready. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, hello.
So those days build a lot of character, but also set a foundation. The coaching job that Andy had, Corey Matei, obviously being able to play for a great coach, a future Hall of Famer like Andy Reid, invaluable experience that they gave me just getting going. So it was definitely a hard process. OTA is just a start. Then you have training camp. And we practice this place called St. Joe's, Missouri, in Missouri Western. And it gets hot.
Okay.
It is awful. We have it only like, 4.5 more months. So going down there, it's not like your usual training camp where some people let you go home after or you're in a nice hotel after. No, you're in a dorm room at like a small college in Missouri. So that's another thing. Like, you got to deal with that. But everything that we do at this organization is built with the goal in mind of winning. So, like, everything that's hard that they put you through ultimately has a function throughout the year. And like through my rookie year, just looking back on experiences in St. Joe, that hot sun, the different reps and stuff you get in practice, going against Chris Jones, invaluable, priceless experience my rookie year. But it led up to, starting throughout the year and having an okay season.
It's crazy to think about it now. I mean, yeah, because you get thrown into that starting role, and then so now I have to ask about your quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. You're sitting there, you're blocking for him. I mean, what as a leader, you've gone through a number of quarterbacks in your career, from college, NFL, high school, college, NFL. Now it's set in Kansas City, but what's that relationship like with Patrick Mahomes, him as a leader, him as the guy that is, making things happen in crazy ways down the field while you guys are sitting there protecting him? What is it about Patrick Mahomes makes him special?
Yeah. Been around a lot of football players, but I think he's probably the best in terms of just natural talent I've ever been around or ever seen. When I first got to the Chiefs, it was like, think about like the top players, like a Travis Kelce, think about Pat, from a fan's perspective, I don't know him. I'm just walking in there.
Right.
And you also think like, man, what type of guys are they going to be like? Are they going to be jerks? They're going to like, sort of be stuck up, not talk to you until you're like a starter level guy. And I remember day one, it's just like, that never was the case, from when we get drafted, like a text like saying, welcome to the organization, blah, blah. Then just meet him in person. And he's always been welcoming us with open arms, been extremely nice. He's a humble guy. He's legit, man. A lot of people don't know about him, but like what you see is what you get on and off the field. He's a great guy, a great human being. And like, with playing with him, man, it's so much freaking fun because it's just, he'll do just crazy passes behind the back, sidearm, like just lobbing it. And sometimes the best part is like when you watch it on film, you watch it back, you're just like, whoa, what did he just do? You replay, our O-line coach just replays it. And the arm talent, it's so special, man. But also his football IQ, the way he makes plays, decision making, like it's insane. And I know one of the things I had to do to adapt was like early on, especially in training camp, my coach would get on to me, just like, get the egg timer out of your head, like, you're working with one of the most prolific playmakers in the NFL. He's going to extend the play, so
good
it's
point.
not like a place where, okay, blah, 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 okay, release the guy, the ball should be out. No, the ball might not be out. Pat might be rolling around, doing a spin, doing something crazy and launching the ball 50 yards for a touchdown. That's just how he rolls. And for me, that was something I had to adapt and learn, just stay in my blocks, just strain to finish. But, he makes it so easy sometimes, because whenever you have 15 back there, you always have a chance to win. But I think what makes him special is just like, he's a great guy. He's a good human being, good person. And, it's an honor to block for him. He's just fun to be around, man.
It's interesting too with Andy Reid, and you look at, Eric Bieniemy as well. And you look at the offense you guys are running, and it, I have a hard time like trying to figure out how to correlate that like to the college level and kind of what offense kind of that is. But when you look at it, so much movement and there's so much stuff that you have to learn as an offensive lineman. But I guess my question is like with Andy Reid, like, what type of coach is he? What is he the guy that you can come up to and you can talk to just about anything, that's going on? I mean, what is that, him as a leader? Because I just hear so much praise for him outside of Kansas City.
Yeah. No, Coach Reid's awesome, man. And, I got to say it again, dude. It's such an honor to play for that caliber of a head coach, I mean, it's really special. I sit back and think about it all the time, like how blessed I am to really play for his organization and play for him. And like Coach Reid is a phenomenal coach, man. Just the way he sort of understands his players and what they are, it's special. I don't think I've really been around it very often, really at all. He says something, let your personality show, and that sticks with me a lot. It's just like, he's not trying to dictate how you are on and off the field or, how you carry and operate yourself. He's trying to let you excel. What special thing about you that's brought you to this level that's allowed you to excel from the, little league, youth era, all the way up to, the pros? That's your personality. That's what's special about you. That's what's indicative about yourself. And he wants that to see. He wants to see that throughout the film. He wants to see it throughout the game as well. But like Coach Reid is just fun. First off, he's funny. He's a big guy. He understands line play. He loves food. So it's like, dude, what else? That's everything I like too. So there's no issues, man. So I love playing for him. Like I said, man, it's really an honor to play for him. From an offensive standpoint, complete genius. He has a lot of staff members around him as well that are phenomenal at their job. You guys like Eric Bieniemy, Andy Heck, Corey Matei, Girardi, Porter Ellett, Connor Embry. If I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry if you guys see it, but man, they're phenomenal at their jobs. They're great teachers of the game, and that's one of the things that has been awesome playing for the Chiefs is they're great teachers of the game. It's not just yelling about stuff, trying to get through like that. No, they're going to try to teach you first, and that's what it comes down to. But I mean, it's a ton of fun to be around Coach Reid, and he's assembled a great staff. And there's a reason he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach.
I bet he has some good food recommendations. He's always talking about, what he, it's either a pizza or a cheeseburger or a steak or whatnot. I mean, I'm sure that helps you guys out. If you need any recommendations, Reed's got you.
Yeah, no, he's amazing at it, man. Hey, he loves his cheeseburgers now.
I can tell. No, I can tell. Hey, going forward, that run that you guys made this past year, it was wild because there were some games you're like, okay, maybe this team is still trying to figure some things out, but then also at the same time, it's like, okay, we know they're dominant in most assets of how they're going to distribute the ball, how Patrick's going to do his, how you guys run the football and whatnot. I know it's probably hard to put into words, but leading up to that Super Bowl and then getting to the Super Bowl matchup, what's going through your head as you get that far? Are you just trying to take it game by game, or do you let the moment ever just sink in that, hey, we're about to play for a Lombardi trophy?
Yeah. That's something I put it after AFC Championship game. That was just like sitting down the field, once again, confetti rolling with your family. And it didn't register until I got it right here, a little prop action, until you see this on the side of the hat.
Okay, yeah.
And you're sitting there and you're just sort of staring at it. I remember going home just like, man, that's something, one, I witnessed, and then two, it's just like, that's all we work for in a year. That's the ultimate end goal of an organization, when you're in the NFL. So it was just like, man, this is huge. This is nothing taken lightly. Like, we're really going to be on the biggest stage, the biggest game of the year, one of the biggest sporting events in the world in the year. So for me, I approached it as making it as normal as a game week as I could, so the moment wouldn't be too big when you get there. Because at the end of the day, you have to put that football down. You got to hit the dude across from you. You got to go play ball. So for me, it was just like, yeah, it's really cool. And I thought about how big the moment was in Arrowhead after we beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
But like me, it was just like, man, I can't focus on how, big the game's going to be, et cetera, leading up to it, because I'm going to psych myself out.
It's a good way to put it. So you didn't worry about Rihanna performing at halftime?
No, Coach Reid warned us. If we walked out at halftime to see the performance, we might as well just keep walking. So, no, I knew I'd catch the replay.
That's pretty good, though. When you got a head coach that tells you if you step outside that locker room, you ain't coming back. Like,
not coming back.
Do your thing. To kind of bring it all full circle, man. What a great game. In the end, you win a Super Bowl. I see pictures of you on the field, after the game, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Trey Smith having a good time. That's how he is. He's soaking in every moment. Then your family, Ashley, is there. Your father is there. Other family members, that are there. That moment, after when you embrace with the family, everything that you've gone through in your life, everything your family has gone through in their life. What that moment mean so early in your career to maybe achieve something like this?
Yeah, really special moment. I saw both of them, like, just wanted them to feel like they're champions. I think, it's a bittersweet moment. You get to the pinnacle of sports, and I was telling my dad when I hugged him when we first got on the field, like, thank you for everything you've done, for this moment. Like, you are a champion. All those times you took me to practice as a kid, Powerade at the gas station, like Subway trips, man, like that led up to this moment, so you enjoy it because it's for you. And I said it's bittersweet because, losing my mom at 15, she's not able to be here. She, wasn't able to see this. So it hurts not having her there, but it's sweet because it's like, we made it, and just thinking about her in that moment, it was a beautiful thing. Seeing Ashley, she might have been more excited about the Super Bowl than I was, man. She was rolling.
Probably.
She was talking butts, but just letting them soak it all in, man, and just understanding because of them, I'm here, because of their efforts, their contributions, their sacrifices they made in their lives have led up to this moment that we can all celebrate and enjoy. So that's.
I mean, it cut you off. Was there a moment after maybe everything kind of died down for the night? You know what I mean? I know there's so much stuff going on, and you're getting on a plane ride the next morning. There's parties going on, and was there ever a moment where you kind of took to yourself, and kind of self-reflected on what had just happened?
I'll be honest, I didn't do that until maybe when I got back to Kansas City.
Yeah.
I could just lay in bed for a little bit at my own time. But I know it's crazy and almost cliche to say, but it still hasn't truly sank in entirely. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm still, I guess shock is sort of the word. It's just like, dude, that really happened. But I know the parade is where it really started settling in a little bit. You go down, you're getting sized for the ring. It's just like, dude, we just won a Super Bowl. I'm getting the ring. I'm gonna give this to my kids one day. And I'm over here collecting memorabilia, like newspaper clippings, all this stuff.
Were you really?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm building up a whole box. Just setting up aside because this is my legacy to a point. I want my kids to experience this. So it's definitely special, man. I'm just thankful for it, man. I'm blessed.
I saw your shirt. I saw your goggles. I saw you having a good time. You were letting loose, man. There were so many people down there at that parade, dude. And even in the square where y'all were celebrating afterwards, you've never really experienced something like that before. And look, I know how crazy the Tennessee fan base is. I think you can agree on that. But man, after winning a Super Bowl with Kansas City, that fan base is absolutely wild. And, you get to realize now that you're a Super Bowl champion. And, I just, over the next, month or two, it sounds like it's a time for you for reflection, to kind of chill out, to kind of maybe level things off a little bit. I know you're not planning ahead or anything like that, but you talked about the moment not sinking in quite yet. How do you, what does Trey Smith do after winning a Super Bowl? I'm sure the random fan is like, what's a guy do? Does he take a trip? Does he just chill out at the house? What's Trey Smith do?
Yeah. This time I am very lazy is what I'm doing. I'm sitting around playing Call of Duty with Cade Mays for about 6 hours a day. And eating really bad for about another week. But on a serious note,
Yeah.
I'm really just trying to manage my time. During the year, you get really busy. So organizing my house. I'm really just chilling though. When I say like I'm playing video games, I'm eating bad and sleeping, watching movies. That's what I'm doing. I'm being a bum right now, and I love it.
Good for you.
So, but normally I'd say I'd probably have like a trip plan. But just being as compressed as the Super Bowl schedule is, how long you play in the season, your off season's cut short a little bit. So instead of having, I think last year I would have been off 2 weeks prior. Now, you don't have that same amount of time. So right now I'm trying to work my way back to Jackson, Tennessee. I want to celebrate in Tennessee a little bit, and then take a trip, a little middle of March. But, I'm just enjoying time, man. And the main thing I'm doing is just trying to make sure my body recovers properly. I'm giving enough rest.
And you also giving it enough food right now too, so you're good to go. I know you got something on the grill coming up, so that plays out. Hey, Trey Smith, congratulations, buddy. I'm proud of you. Absolutely awesome what you accomplished, man. And this is your first Super Bowl. If things keep up, maybe you can add another one to that. But I appreciate you joining, buddy, and congratulations.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.